Jake Thompson was the life of a party. He was a handsome young man. His flamboyant and playboy lifestyle was second to none. At 34, he owned a big engineering firm, Philas Elevators. His flirtatious acts were loved by many ladies. He had dated several women and had always avoided relationship with any of them. All he wanted was to have fun and satisfy the sexual urge. You know, women love me and I love them right back. His mantra remained cautioned by his friends. As flirtatious as he was, he never mixed business with pleasure. Jake had noticed how his secretary behaved around him. He saw how she intentionally wore revealing dresses just to seduce him. There was no way he would have anything to do with his staff. That had always been his policy. She crossed the line when she wore an outfit that wasn't office-like. "Lana, if you want us to rock and roll, you will have to resign and not work for this company, which is not even guaranteed I might be interested. As long as you are my staff, do not even think of flirting with me. Do I make myself clear? Also, this is an office. Watch how you dress," he cautioned her. "Yes, sir," Lana replied with a sober look. Since then, she adjusted herself around him. Jake's father had called several times to warn him about the kind of life he was living. He had even suggested he settle down so as to be responsible. "Dad, marriage? I'm not ready for that. In fact, there is no lady among my female partners that is worth settling down with. Our transaction is kind of friends with benefit, Dad. Don't worry, marriage is a no-no for me, at least for now," he told his dad. His dad had blamed himself for his son's philandering attitude. Jake saw his mother cry several times due to his father's promiscuous acts. He stopped the act late after Deborah died from cardiac arrest when she caught him on their matrimonial bed. He knew Jake silently blamed him for his mother's death, even though he had tried to let go and bridge the father-son gap. He couldn't forgive himself and always pleaded for Deborah's forgiveness, even in death. "Tiana, you will have to represent the company at the meeting with Philas Elevators tomorrow," Mr. Kennedy told a young lady who couldn't hide her rejection from him, even though he was her boss and uncle. "Sir, do you mean I will visit that company alone? You know the records the company owners has. He is a Casanova. I can't stand such a person," she said with a disdain look. "I know, but I trust you, Tiana. You are a lady of integrity and the best person to represent me at this meeting. You know how the profit in these contracts we just received will change the face of the company, and Philas Elevators has the best quality we need. I would have gone myself, but this impromptu meeting with the senator would benefit our business also," Mr. Kennedy replied. Tiana nodded and promised to do her best. "David, we need to be up early tomorrow. I have an important meeting, okay?" Tiana informed her son during dinner. "All right, Mom," the 9-year-old boy replied. Tiana was a single mother in her 30s. She had David while at the university. Thanks to her uncle and his wife who stood by her during those times, she would never have come out of the situation. Being an orphan, her uncle had sent her to the university and paid the fees. Her first meeting with Chris got her pregnant when she was in her second year. She felt she had disappointed her family, but Mr. Kennedy forgave and took care of her and the child. His wife took care of David while she went back to the university to finish her studies. The father of her son, Chris, who denied the pregnancy till death, was nowhere to be found. She got to the company 10 minutes earlier and was told that the boss had not arrived. She sat working on her laptop at the reception when he arrived and walked majestically into his office. What a man, she thought. Tiana despised men like him. She was unfortunate to have a child with one, even though it disappeared into thin air. All they knew was to use, dump and move to the next woman. Chris deceived her by claiming he loved her, not knowing all he wanted was her body. She would never fall for such again. She would rather focus on her career and son than walk into any relationship. The receptionist's voice informing her of Jake's availability for the meeting jolted her as she nodded thankfully and walked towards his office. Jake had just ended a phone conversation when he heard the knock on the door. He knew the person was from Leverage Firm, his mentor's company. Mr. Kennedy had been a great help to him when he was still new in the business. The man had introduced him to foreign investors and had never demanded for any form of appreciation. He would do anything for that man. He was like a father to him. "Come in," What he saw made him hold his breath for a few seconds. Holy cow! Who was this angel walking towards him? He was wowed at the beauty standing in front of him. "Good morning, Mrs. Thompson. I am Tiana from Leverage Firm. I am here to represent Mr. Kennedy," the sonorous voice of the angel said. Tiana. That was the only thing he could pick from everything she said. What a beautiful name for a beautiful lady, he thought. "Mr. Thompson, are you okay?" Tiana asked. She noticed he was lost in thought. He just looked and smiled at her without saying a word after she introduced herself. "You are welcome, Miss Tiana. Please have your seat. What should I offer you?" he asked. But Tiana declined politely. She just wanted to do what brought her here and get over with it. Meeting was successful, as both parties negotiated and came to an agreement easily. Who would have thought with his playboy life, he was also business-oriented? Impressive, Tiana thought silently. He would have gained a tiny bit of respect from her, but his next approach ruined it all. "If you do not mind, Tiana, I would like to have dinner with you," he said with a flirtatious smile. Tiana anger brewed from beneath. If only he knew how much she felt towards his type, he won't even think of inviting her for dinner. Talk more of giving her that annoying Casanova smile. "I really appreciate, but no thanks, Mr. Jake," she said, already up. "Call me Jake, Tiana. Just a friendly dinner date. I believe since we have agreed and sealed this deal, we are now friends," he said with that same smile. "I am not your friend and will never be. I believe the deal we just sealed is between your company and mine, Mr. Jake," she said and walked out of the office. What a flirt, she thought angrily as she drove back to her office. Jake was surprisingly worried at what Tiana had said earlier. He believed they had never met before, even when he visited his mentor's company. He decided to find out why she despised him. Mr. Kennedy called Tiana to his office few weeks later to inform her that she would handle the project. She happily accepted and thanked her uncle for everything he had done for her and David. Even in her excitement, she knew working with Jake cannot be avoided. She hoped he would ask one of his staff to handle the supply. She really hoped. Jake was happy when he heard that the project between his company and Leverage Firm would be solely handled by the beautiful Tiana. He told his manager that he was interested in the project. Tiana was professional all through the project, which took 2 months to be completed. She never allowed the presence of Jake's radar. At first, she was sad when informed that Jake was the person in charge of all the supplies and wondered why he was interested in the project. But in no time, she gave no damn about the reasons. She called him after getting his phone number from her uncle. He informed him when and where the equipment will be needed. Even when he exhibited his playboy attitude, she shut him down politely. For the period of 2 months that they worked together, Jake felt invisible to Tiana. He tried all the tricks to get her attention, but all was in vain. He noticed how she behaved strictly and professional around him, but smiled with the engineers. After the success of the project, she sent the reports to him through his manager. He knew she wanted to avoid him. 3rd month, Jake couldn't get her off his mind. She was the first lady to downplay and gave no damn about him. He wanted to be her friend so bad that Jake questioned his sanity. "Hello, Tiana." "Hello, who am I speaking with?" Wow, she had even deleted my number, Jake thought. "Jake Thompson, how are you doing?" "Mr. Jake, I am fine, thanks, and you?" "Doing great, thank you. Just checking up on you." "Oh, appreciate, Mr. Jake. Can you please drop the Mr. and call me Jake? I felt old when you addressed me as Mr. Jake." "Okay then, Jake. Thank you, and one more please don't say no. Can I take you out for lunch tomorrow, please, Tiana?" There was a dead silence for a few seconds from the other end. "Okay, Jake, just lunch," she finally said. "Just lunch." "Mom, I'm hungry," a voice interrupted. "Come in, darling." "Okay, Jake, tomorrow then." "Hope Sydney Place along Preston Road is fine." "Perfect, 1 p.m. is good. Bye, Tiana." "Bye," she said and hung up. He heard someone call her mom. Is she married? But she never wore a wedding band. Hope he wasn't trespassing, he thought deeply that night before he went to bed. Jake was already at Sydney Place by the time Tiana arrived. She apologized for her lateness. After they had placed their order, she asked why Jake wanted to see her. "Tiana, I believe prior to our meeting at my office few months ago, we have never met. I remembered vividly that day when I said we were now friends. You immediately shut down that claim. with a visible hatred in your eyes. During the project, you avoided me and not once did we exchange any slight casual gesture. This got me worried, Tiana. I want to know if I've ever done anything to you before that caused you to despise me, he said with an innocent look. Tiana, who thought he was being tricky with the sweet, innocent talk, smiled and told him she wasn't going to fall for everything he said. Hey Jake, if the reason for this lunch was to play your sweet talks on me, like you do to others, it won't work. No sweet talks here, Tiana. I really want to know. Tiana looked at him for a few seconds and felt it's high time she let him understand certain things about life. Jake, it's okay to like women, but seeing them as a piece of shit just because you have the money is a no-no for me. Your philandering attitude disgusts me. Do you remember the stunt you pulled on a lady at Strictly 10 nightclub 2 years ago? You smiled wickedly when she accused you of sleeping with her twin, and all you said that night was, "Women love me." How I hated that statement. Are you the only wealthy young man in town? You give no shit about any lady. You even tried it with me on my first visit to your office. If only you knew, Jake. You felt every lady should swamp around you because of what? Your money? Your handsomeness? You need to tone down a bit, mister, she said. Jake was stunned with all that she said. Never had anyone talked to him like this. He had no idea she was at the club when the incident happened. She had harbored hatred towards him for more than 2 years. Jake doesn't know why, but he felt really bad about everything. Was it because the condemnation was from Tiana? After a few seconds, Jake breathed heavily and spoke. I was 10 years old when I saw how my dad treated my mother. He slept with women both old and young. I remembered seeing my mom cried, prayed and wished that it would change. I saw how my mom had miscarriages due to her excess thinking. She almost lost her life during the third one and was warned by the doctor not to make an attempt of getting pregnant as her blood pressure had gone up. I overheard my late aunt yelling at my dad about his promiscuous act and accused him of causing the miscarriage my mother had before clocked 10 years. I asked my mom several times why I stayed in this stressful marriage. She was smiled and said, Jake, I signed for better for worse with your father. What broke the camel's back was when my mother caught my dad with her elder sister on their matrimonial bed in our house. Passed out, and before we could get her to the hospital, she died, Tiana. She died because of a marriage she would have walked away from. I hated my father for years, even though I had forgiven him. I can never forget. If her sister could betray her like that, why then do I have to commit myself to any woman? If marriage would cause heartache for me, I do not want this lifetime commitment, he said with the saddest tone ever. Tiana was shocked about this revelation that she didn't know when she stretched her hands across the table and gently squeezed it. While she held disgust for him, he held sadness in his heart since it was 10 years. She thought, so, I apologize, Tiana, for how I made you feel towards me. The truth is, between me and these women, it was mutual benefit. I avoided any relationship with them. I've never told anyone but you, not even my father, he finally said. I am grateful for confiding in me, Jake, and also apologize for seeing it differently, she said calmly. No need to apologize, Tiana, he replied, still holding her stretched hand. You were right about our first meeting in my office. I wanted to perform my act on you, but I became concerned when you said those words and your attitude towards me during the project. If you could give me a chance, I would really like to be your friend, Tiana. Tiana nodded and smiled. Jake put an end to his promiscuous act, and soon his friendship with Tiana grew. By the 6 months, they became best of friends. He visited her house and met with her son. She had told him about how she became a single mother. He had applauded her because she had done a great job raising a young boy like David. In no time, he became close to the boy that they played PS and also trained at the basketball court together. After Tiana spoke to him, he went with her during one of the family gatherings where he privately spoke with his father about his hurt. His father had cried deeply and asked for his forgiveness, which he did, and both men hugged with tears. His father had thanked Tiana for bringing his son back home. 2 years had passed since their friendship, and Jake was afraid to express his feelings to her. He had silently fell in love with her for the past 1 year, but he did not want to ruin the beautiful friendship he had with Tiana and her son, who had grown fond of him. He was always excited to have them over for dinner during the weekends. He remembered how they had both helped to decorate his house at the last Christmas. It was all laughter. They almost felt like a perfect family. Jake, I know you like my mom and she also likes you. I don't know why both of you are trying to hide your feelings for each other, said out during one of their visits to Jake's house, leaving the adult shop. David, watch your mouth. I'm sorry for what he said. Tiana apologized. Mom, but I'm not lying. You like him. I saw how you smiled whenever you're on phone talking to him. Likewise, Uncle Jake. He personally prepared this food for us whenever we visited on weekends. I saw how we look at you. Why you both held it for so long is what I don't understand. Uncle Jake, if you want my approval to date my mom, you have it. Mom, you have my approval too. You already know how much I like him, the boy said bluntly and continued with his food. Jake and Tiana looked at each other. They knew the period of fooling around was over. Tiana had secretly loved Jake after meeting his father and saw how he forgave the old man and had treated him with love afterwards. Jake stood up, moved closer to Tiana, and gently pulled her up. He confessed to her falling in love with her for some time, but feared she might reject him due to his past, which Tiana quickly shushed and kissed him deeply. I knew it! Congratulations, guys, David said happily, which made the adults laugh. In between the kiss, Jake continued to whisper, I love you to Tiana.